Mr. Sandra, I would like to know what the next steps are. I mean, from what I understand, the board does not have to follow the advice of the planning commission and can reject all these suggestions, and then we would have one path forward for this the draft. The second option would be that, as per your recommendation, we rework this and then have to resubmit it to the planning commission. So I'm a little confused about the exact sequence of events before this actually becomes available for the public to chime in on.
Well, now that it has been sent to our planning commission and they've reviewed it, it's completely within the discretion of the Board of Supervisors as to what to do next with this proposed ordinance, with this draft ordinance that's out there. Where you don't have a jointure, you'd wait for a recommendation from the Planning Commission and decide whether you wanted to move it forward and send it to the County Planning Commission for a 30-day review period because it's a zoning ordinance amendment. And once that period was done, we'd advertise a public hearing, and you'd hold a public hearing, and you could either approve it or not approve it. Because we have a jointure, it adds an additional step where it would have to be, with Newtown being the originating municipality of the jointure, the ordinance would have to come out of Newtown's Board of Supervisors, as it were, public vote to authorize it to be sent to the jointure municipalities for their review and comment, and the ordinance would be discussed at a meeting or meetings of the Joint Zoning Council, and ultimately comments would be sent back to the Board of Supervisors here regarding the ordinance. You could take those comments, you don't have to take those comments. Know that you need all three of the townships to vote in favor of an amendment to the zoning ordinance in order to have it become law. So it adds that step. If everybody can agree on language and all three boards of supervisors authorize it to be advertised, much as this board did at its last meeting for the fireworks ordinance and the conservation overlay ordinance and one other ordinance which escapes me. Thank you, medical marijuana. If everybody votes to authorize it to be advertised, the jointure solicitor advertises it for a public hearing at each of the boards of supervisors. They each hold a hearing. They can vote yes or no. If everybody enacts it, then it becomes law. If one township does not enact it, then it doesn't become law. Do you have any other specific questions? I don't want to just give you the big picture and avoid the details.
I'm a visual guy, so it seems like I need some kind of a flow chart. Maybe Kyle can help. He's a programmer, and he can probably program all the boxes and everything. Draw it out, what happens if it goes to if it goes to the Joint Zoning Council, that's a public meeting.
Correct.
Wouldn't the document then be discussed there and made
No, because it's still a draft ordinance. It's not a public document under the right to know law.
Okay. But anybody can attend that meeting at the Joint Zoning
Anybody
Council.
can attend the meeting at the Joint Zoning Council. But the document, as it was in front of the Planning Commission, would still be a draft ordinance.
Okay. Well, I think most of it has probably been made public already anyway from the comments from the Planning Commission. I don't think there was anything in that document that wasn't discussed in plenty of detail. So I kind of think it's a moot point, but what do you recommend now that we do?
It's the board's discretion. Either the board can say, do nothing, we don't want to consider this. The board can say to me, reach out to counsel for the applicant, the petitioner on the text amendment, and work with them to address the comments of the Planning Commission. I don't know if it would be appropriate, and the board would have to tell me, to use Mr. Fiddler's report or to wait for the minutes to be approved formally and refer exclusively to the minutes of the meeting in attempting to work out revision to the language of the proposed ordinance. And again, we could do that. It could go back to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission, when it takes a vote, could still vote against it or may vote to recommend approval. But again, whatever the Planning Commission does, and this is important for the public, whatever the Planning Commission does, they're a recommendatory body only. When they take action, nothing official happens except they make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. Then again, your next move would not be to vote to enact the ordinance, it would be to vote to send the ordinance to the jointure for its review, which would include sending it to the Bucks County Planning Commission for a 30-day review. And I would think that that Upper Makefield and Wrightstown would also send it to their respective planning commissions, as we have done with all zoning ordinances, amendments that have come in from other townships, and get their input. So again, being part of the jointure adds that step, but that's what you have.
Typically, how long does that take to do all those rounds?
It'll take a number of months.
Yeah,
It could take years.
yeah. I've seen it. I think I've seen it take years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Well, I think that, I like to go according to what Mr. Fiddler said. And basically it's in the hands of the applicant's solicitor to revise what the Planning Commission has suggested. And I would go along with what the Planning Commission has suggested, and Mr. Fiddler, in regards to, I guess, first their solicitor making the changes that were suggested, and then maybe our solicitor reviewing those changes as they come across.
absolutely. Just want to clarify one thing. Do you want me to reach out to the council for the petitioning party on the text amendment and provide them with a copy of Mr. Fiddler's report, or do
No,
you
I think that they are getting paid by the applicant, so let them do their due diligence. I don't think.
I can send an email at low expense.
Well, how would they know how to revise it without the
They were
report?
given direction. I mean, we were all at the Planning Commission. You know, they were given direction by the
Okay.
Fiddler to go back and revise it according to what their suggestions were. And that's what I believe I heard the attorney that night agree to.
Yes.
Okay, is this a report that Mr. Fiddler submitted to us, a public document?
John, if you want to make it public, go out and hand out flyers outside. I
Okay,
don't care.
thanks. I'll do that.
They can certainly use the minutes once the minutes are approved.
Technically no, because it is a report prepared by a commission to the Board of Supervisors. Again, sorry to say no, but I'm,
Some of us
every day I get more learned in the right to know
don't
law.
follow technicalities, Dave.
Some of us do not follow
We'll
technicalities.
leave it at that.
Correct.
Any other questions for Mr. Fiddler, or? I know you'd left, but.
No, I have one more question.
Mr. Fiddler has left the building.
If we send it back to the Wawa people, or whoever, and it comes back revised, does it go back to the Mr. Fiddler's Planning Commission?
I believe that was his request.
That would be,
That's what-
again, your discretion, but it sounds like that's what would happen.
Safe enough.